Good evening, everyone. Hello to all those who are watching us from across the world. Welcome to the Kritya-Poetry Festival 2021. On the sixth day of our pilgrimage, we meet an eclectic bunch of poets who come together from different parts of the world and speak diverse languages. What brings them together is the universal language, that of poetry. I'm happy to invite Ranu Uniyal, who's an Indian poet and writes in English. Aurelia Lassaque, who's French. Prithiraj Taur, who's from Maharashtra, India. He writes in Marathi. We have Degenaar, who's from the Netherlands. We have Azam Kadri, who writes in Hindi and is from India. We have Hans Amadé Esperer from Germany. And we have Aditya Shankar, who's a bilingual poet. He writes in Malayalam and English. He's Indian. A very warm welcome to all poets. Thank you for joining us today. At the very outset, I'd like to invite the gangster-in-chief, Rati Saxena ji, who is relentless in her efforts to take poetry to every corner of the world. She leads the project with a smile day after day, despite the glitches, and brings us all to this platform to meet each other. Welcome, Rati ji.
Namaskar. Friends, today is a little bit technical hinge. After 5 days, it was terribly breakdown of internet in Kerala, Trivandrum, which is the Asianet, and I am running it from my mobile, which is very difficult for me. That how to present and how I present myself. This is unfortunate, and I hope things will be all right in few minutes because I have complained and I'm trying my best to do it. So let me welcome you, all of you. Very great, nice, very great evening with the poets from different languages and different countries. I welcome Amadé, who is a doctor, medical doctor and poet, and who writes love poetry. I welcome Job, who is from Netherlands, and he writes another kind of love poetry. Adam Khadri is a very young poet. I think I converted him into poet. He was actually a novelist and film scriptwriter, but I forced him to convert into poetry. And then our other poets like Ranuji established. Aurelia is very famous poet, a European poet, and Prithiraj Taur is a Maharashtrian poet and translator, and he writes in a very beautiful language of Maharashtra. And I forgot the name actually.
Aditya.
Aditya, I'm sorry, Aditya. I'm very sorry because I'm so nervous because of this internet problem because I have to do first time in my life with my mobile. So I welcome you all, and Kamayani, please take it.
Yes.
It is up to you, and I'm going back. I hope everything will be all right. I will try my best to do my best. So please excuse me if there is any technical problem. Thank you very much. Welcome to you all, friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Sit back and relax. We'll take it forward from here. Thank you so much. Let me introduce to you the first poet of the evening. We have Ranu Uniyal. who's a poet by passion and a teacher by profession. She writes both in Hindi and English. She's been published widely, and her first book of poems in Hindi, Saida Ka Ghar, is due this month. She has 3 poetry collections in English, Across the Divide, December Poems, and The Day We Went Strawberry Picking in Scarborough. Welcome, Ranuji. We're eager to hear you.
Thank you, Kamayani. Thank you, dear Rati, for working on this festival for more than 15 years. It is your indefatigable spirit that has kept this going. Kritya-Poetry Festival is an international platform that encourages poets from across the world to share, speak, and show their love for poetry. Thank you for inviting me to this festival. The first poem that I'm going to read is from my collection, The Day We Went Strawberry Picking in Scarborough. And the title of this poem is All is Fair. I was a child then. She held my hand and took me to the flower. Smell it, but never pick it. Tomorrow it will be gone. Young girls, fragile as flowers in full bloom, must not desire. My hands shirked from my body. I tried to hang on to the exchange between us. Every call and every smile had a taste of the forbidden fruit. Until a reckoning claimed me inside out, my legs betrayed me. I, the woman in love, despite the shrinking sadness of her hands and her mother's abounding advice, refused to bury the tiny strands that tipped her to life. Why would I watch my breasts sink, my eyes shiver and lose their shine? I want and I want. I chose to die. The title of the second poem is Woman to Woman, and it is a conversation, Kamla Das to Judith Wright, and this is from my second collection, December Poems. Woman to woman, you tell me of a sorrow that was mine yesterday. I brushed my hands, the rough edges of my nails had another sorrow, and underneath it was all wet, wet with a sense of despair. Are they all the same? The men we loved, the one who promised and walked away, and the one who married, and the one whose seed I held inside with such unholy patience and longing. You share with me a joke that is yours today. I laugh with you. It is another tale of a woman who, like us, did odd jobs, a house, a husband, and a child or two, or none. What difference would it make? Yet in place, and she danced to the tune until it soured her bones and soiled her blood. But she smiled and hugged her tears as if nothing at all had happened. There she was at the bus stop, at the post office, in bed and the kitchen, beside the computer and the bathroom. Unlike Clytemnestra, unlike Draupadi, unlike Medusa, unlike Anasuya, kicking her angst, afraid it would not just eat her inside out, but follow her like a ghost, and then they would all know these smells of the sweat only dead possess. The third poem that I'm going to read is from my first collection, Across the Divide, which was published by Yeti Publications from Calicut way back in 2006. And the title of this poem is A Dust Storm in the Middle of the Night. This entire festival is focusing on the theme of peace, and the poem also looks at peace. A dust storm in the middle of the night. It was one dark yellow evening, and the stars had gone inside the shell, And the sky, shameless but proud of its early naked flesh, opened its arms for the moon to recline. Nothing stirred in the winds, as if there were enough sins to wrap around the earth. Distant and quiet, had enough of blood, sweat, and tears to cope with. There, on that daring night, not out of nowhere, but from the hungry bellies of pregnant mothers, from the uneven mouths of half-clad children, the disembodied spirits of the young who had been raped on the nights when her husband was not around, the silent fire of Godhra, the unshed tears of Bamyan Buddha. Just a sec. The disembodied spirits of the young who had been raped on the nights when her husband was not around, the silent fire of Godhra, the unshed tears of Bamyan Buddha, the blasts at the trains, ripped nameless bodies, lost in the acts of vengeance, unaccounted tales but few to narrate, sullied wombs gripped with fatigue and tireless determination to hang on to life, to nature, to Mother Earth, to mothers of all the fathers, sons, soldiers, statesmen, to all who had been once inside her womb, a burning question, a haunting disquiet. How often will history repeat itself, leaving her to write another script without rain, without sunshine? Thank you. Thank you very much.
थैंक यू सो मच रानो जी, बहुत ही बुलंद आवाज में बहुत ही बुलंद कविताएं. थैंक यू. Next, I invite Aurelia Lassaque. Aurelia is a bilingual poet who writes in French and Occitan, the latter being a Romance language of troubadours that has been declared an endangered language by UNESCO. Interested in the interaction between various forms of art, she collaborates with visual artists, musicians, and dancers. She's performed in all parts of the world and is a very active advocate of linguistic diversity. A much published poet, she's been published and translated into many, many languages across the world. I invite Aurelia. We're happy to have you here today.
To my participation to Kritya Festival in 2013 in my very beginnings. So I'm very blessed to be with you once again, and I would like to thank Khati Saxena for inviting me and also for the Hindi translation that you will hear. So I will read 4 poems extracted from a full collection that is based on a dialogue between Ulysses and a woman with no name. So when she speaks, it's just she. And this first poem I will read in Occitan. Ello. Lis closservo lairegos des rires pauches de trolles bengutte larg. Alumbro de staulies m'ensenyavos tus jocs. Aviam padetzang e carreggiavos e tresaus dientas pocos traucados. Asauchos de larivos, panavos de fials peripasa de peiros, en furmos d'arceli. Los peixes eran bornis e la fruccio troppo amarro, che pausavos tremulant alla bruo de ma fenestro. L'olivier aveva in nu, che t'aveva fisat, tan como l'alfabet che s'engravo al frecel sull'albere mestres de las naus. Inventaven l'un per l'altro di storios fantasticos, y había de balenos de la lengua curioso, y había das paraulos urnados de sale nostros lagremos vertageros, can estiu tresculant nos rendio estranger l'un a l'autre. Translation, please.
Okay. So this poem has been translated into Hindi by Rati Saxena, and it's called Vah. समंदर की जवार में ऊंची लहरों से, बच्चों की चीखती हंसी से, यह द्वीप जख्मी हो गया है. बाजार की दुकानों की छाया में मैंने चखा है स्वाद तुम्हारे खेलों का. हम मुश्किल से 10 बरस के थे और तुम्हारा खजाना, तुम्हारी फटी जेबों में भरा था। तटों पर कुछ बूढ़ों से तुमने चुरा लिए थे जाल के टुकड़े, सीपियों को पत्थरों से जोड़ने के लिए। मेरी खिड़की की सिल पर तुमने कंपाते हाथों से एक आंख वाली मछली और अध पके फल छोड़ दिए थे। जैतून के पेड़ को एक नाम दे दिया था जो तुमने बताया भी था। जहाजों की मस्तूलों पर शब्दों के साथ उन्होंने चकमक पत्थर से भी नक्काशी की थी। हमने सुनाई थी एक दूसरे को अद्भुत कहानियां उन लोगों की जो वेल के साथ रहते थे, अजीब अजीब जुबान बोलते थे, नमकीन शब्दों में जीते थे। हम सच्चे आंसुओं से रोते थे, फिर अलग कर दिए गए। हमने एक दूसरे से कही शानदार कहानियां उनकी वेल के साथ जो अजीब जुबान बोलते थे, अपने नमक से भरे शब्दों में जिंदा। और हमारे आंसू सच्चे थे जब ढलती गर्मी ने हमें एक दूसरे से दूर कर दिया। Aurelia, next poem,
This
please.
one poem will be read in French. Le soleil s'est levé. Le garçon lui murmure ses commandements. Non loin de lui est agenouillée celle qu'il aime. Les bras enfouis dans le sable, elle creuse. Le garçon prie que l'on se souvienne de son nom, que l'on s'en souvienne jusqu'au dernier homme, qu'Ulysse soit le dernier homme. Puis il saisit le soleil à pleine main, le mord et le crible de rire. Elle n'a pas besoin d'entendre ses prières pour savoir de quoi sont faits les rêves d'Ulysse. Alors elle creuse, à la manière d'un animal que l'orage rend furieux, un labyrinthe. Elle voudrait pouvoir y retenir le soleil, que la mer soit complice. Elle y dépose de petites statues d'argile, une pour elle, une pour Ulysse, ils se tiennent par la main. Il y a une noce. Mais le labyrinthe est de sable. Chaque matin, il faut tout recommencer. Et quand vient l'heure de la noce, elle jure 2 fois. Kamayani?
Okay, thank you. This poem is called Canto 1, and it's been translated into English by Madeleine Campbell. Canto 1. The sun has risen. Facing it, the boy murmurs his commandments. Close by, kneeling, is the one he loves. Arm deep in sand she digs. The boy prays that they may remember his name, that they remember his name until the last man, that Ulysses be that man. After, he seizes the sun with his hands, bites it, and hounds it with laughter. She has no need to hear his prayers. She knows what Ulysses' dreams are made of. And so she burrows like an animal maddened by the storm, a labyrinth. She wishes she could keep the sun there, make the sea her accomplice. In the labyrinth, she places small statues of clay, one for herself, one for Ulysses. Their hands are clasped, a wedding is held. But the labyrinth is made of sand. Every morning she must begin again, and come the wedding hour, she vows twice over. Aurelia?
The third poem will give the voice to Ulysses in Occitan. Ulises, te boli ritrubadrollo, ritruba aqueles chur diventados que escalpraban ta cabelladuro de saplo e de sal. Alaro gagnavos maccauno da passet, que remirese ta coffo e ta mineschero. Parlavos pa mai, fazios de gestes larg, l'usulel di tuneschino fazios moure las umbros et ta pelabireino. Vali, enguliamas man de droli da ritanucco, purtata caro come un calissi e danza come un sec. Vali fregato un pe di napusco freddo e che tu rire mi devore. Vali dormi cambelio, se che lai cabros da valen lussere per annunziare la sero. Te voli beire partire de mura sul, pereculier al son de lai campanos animalos, lai perlos de saplo y de sal casudos de tus pelces. Kamayani?
We have a Hindi translation for this by Rati Saxena. Odysseus. मैं चाहता हूं कि तुम फिर से बच्ची बन जाओ, हम जी सकें उन दिनों को जब आंधियां हमारे बालों पर नमक और रेत से नक्काशी करती थी, जब तुम हौले कदमों से मेरी मांद में आती थी, जिससे मैं कसीदे पढ़ सकूं तुम्हारे मुलायम बालों के ताज के परदेशी से जो प्रभावित थे। तुम बोली नहीं, लेकिन इशारों से काफी कुछ बताया। अपनी पीठ पर तुमने छाया को आमंत्रित किया। मैंने तुम्हारी अपनी रानी पुकारा। मैं बच्चे के से कोमल हाथों को तुम्हारी गर्दन पर फिराना चाहता हूं, तुम्हारे चेहरे को प्याले सा थामना चाहता हूं, झूमना चाहता हूं अंधे आदमी के नृत्य पर। मैं चाहता हूं कि तुम्हारे कदम ठंडी रेत पर चहलकदमी करें। मैं चाहता हूं कि तुम्हारी हंसी मेरा भक्षण कर लें। जब तुम जागो तो मैं चाहता हूं सोना, जैसे कि भेड़ें पहाड़ के नीचे दुबकती हैं रात का स्वागत करती हुई। मैं तुम्हें जाते हुए देखना चाहता हूं, एकांत में रहते देखना चाहता हूं, जब तक मैं समेटूं घंटियों की ध्वनियां तुम्हारे केशों से टपकते धूल के मोती। Aurelia.
Ulysses. Again. Dios, Ulisses, dice un murmul al dedín de más paumos e passeggiavos tal lengues un perfin de figos si más magros ufrendos. Parlavos al futur e cregnoi a queste baucin. La mustus sul teu frum et as bellios nuicencos, como sabia observat per tu lo secret del fioc, como se dependio de tu. Curo e a quindiu sacrifica la flambo.
This is Odysseus again, Ulysses again, and this is an English translation by Madeleine. You whispered, Ulysses, a murmur in the palm of my hand, rolling your fig-scented tongue over my scant offerings. Your voice dwelled in the future, and I feared your madness, your fevered brow and your nightly vigil, as though the fire's secrets were yours to keep, as though time and God were yours to sacrifice to the flame. Thank you, Aurelia. Those were very, very interesting poems.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next in line, we have Prithiraj Taur, who has been teaching Marathi at Swami Ramananda Tirtha Marathwada University at Nanded for the last 18 years. He's a Marathi poet, translator, editor, storyteller, and critic. He's published no less than 24 books. Dr. Taur is currently involved in a project for translating Indian women's poetry into Marathi, and needless to say, he is the recipient of many a prestigious award. Prithiraj, welcome.
Okay. Yeah. Good evening, one and all. Thanks to Dr. Rati Saxena ma'am to invite me in the Kritya International Poetry Festival. And thanks to Kamayani ji, she is going to read the English translation of my Marathi poem afterwards. And thanks to Dr. L.S. Deshpande, who has translated my poems in English. My first poem in Marathi, ही खेडी उदास उदास, ही खेडी उदास उदास वाहत जातायत गोदेच्या पात्रातून. ही खेडी उदास उदास वाहत जातायत गोदेच्या पात्रातून. ही माणसं बुजगावण्यासारखी बसली आहेत चौका चौकातून. ही शेत उद्ध्वस्त उजाड सरकतायत मनामनातून. उभं आहे स्मशान, बोलावतो आहे वड, हसतायत पारंब्या, ढासळतायत बुरुज, ऐकू येतायत आकाश किंकाळ्या माळवदी वाड्यांच्या. उभं आहे स्मशान, बोलावतो आहे वड, हसतायत पारंब्या, ढासळतायत बुरुज, ऐकू येतायत आकाश किंकाळ्या माळवदी वाड्यांच्या. हे गोदे, तू कोणती संस्कृती पेरते आहेस डुगडुगत्या झोपड्यात. हे गोदे, तू कोणती संस्कृती पेरते आहेस डुगडुगत्या झोपड्यात. आयुष्य बनलं आहे पापग्रस्त युद्धभूमी आणि इच्छा नसतानाही लढतायत माणसं. का आणि कुणासाठी. गोदाकाठच्या खिड्यांनो, गोदाकाठच्या खिड्यांनो, माती सरकत आहे मुळापासून. सांभाळा, स्वतःला सांभाळा, नाहीतरी हिरोशिमा दूर नाहीच. कामायनीजी.
Thank you. This has been translated into English by L.S. Deshpande, and in English it's called Hiroshima, Not Away. These villages depressed, dejected, and gloomy, drifting through the stream of the Goda. These people like scarecrows, seated at crossroads. These farms destroyed and gloomy, getting out of minds. A graveyard is hung around. A banyan is calling. Aerial roots smiling. Bastions are collapsing. There are screeches of old mansions. Oh, Goda, what culture are you sowing into the tottering huts? Life has become a sinful battlefield, and without willpower, men are fighting. Why? And for whom? Oh, the villages at the bank of the Goda. The soil is slipping away from the roots. Beware. Take care of yourself. Otherwise, Hiroshima is not away.
Yeah, thanks, Kamayani. My second poem. आम्ही बोलतो मोबाईलवरून. आम्ही बोलतो मोबाईलवरून, करतो गप्पा दिलखुलास, सांगतो गोष्टी ऐकवायच्या राहून गेलेल्या. तिचं दिसणं वा माझं वागणं सगळं उपटं आम्ही काढतो मोबाईलवरून. मला तिची काळजी वाटते खूप. मला तिची काळजी वाटते खूप. ऐकवतो मी. किंवा ती सांगते साखर संपल्याचं, किंवा भाजी आणण्याचं, किंवा करून देते निरोपाची आठवण अमुक तमुकच्या. मी इकडच्या टोकाला स्मित करतो. मी इकडच्या टोकाला स्मित करतो, किंवा टेकवतो ओठ कीपॅडवर. ती हसते दिलखुलास, किंवा गोडशा संवेदना पसरत जातात तिच्या अंगावर. ती पुन्हा पुन्हा रिंग देते. ती पुन्हा पुन्हा रिंग देते आणि माझ्या व्यस्ततेत मी टाळतो तिचा कॉल. ती चिंताक्रांत. अधिकाधिक तिची कोवळी बोटं थरथरत राहतात मोबाईलच्या बटनावर पुन्हा पुन्हा. आणि आसूसले ते कान. काळजीत आम्ही आनाभाका घेतो आयुष्यभराच्या. आम्ही आनाभाका घेतो आयुष्यभराच्या. अगदी आतून म्हणतो माझं प्रेम आहे तुझ्यावर. मी तिला किंवा ती मला, जवळ किंवा दूर, शहरात वा कुठं नगरात, एसटीत, ॲटोत, मोटरसायकलवर, पायी चालताना, ती सदैव सोबत असते. ती सदैव सोबत असते. ती सदैव बोलत असते. बोलत असते खूप काही बोलायचं राहिलेलं. मीही ऐकतो खूप काही ऐकायचं राहिलेलं. आम्ही सदैव बोलत असतो मोबाईलवर. आम्ही सदैव बोलत असतो मोबाईलवर. आम्ही बोलतो फक्त मोबाईलवरच. कामायनी मॅम.
Okay. In English, this poem is called We Talk on the Mobile Phone. We talk on the mobile phone, freely chat, carry on a tete-a-tete, relate tales untold about her look or my bearing. We settle our scores on the mobile phone. I care a lot for her. I tell her, or she informs me of sugar exhausted, or asks me to buy vegetables, or reminds me of the message received from some strangers. I smile from this end, or lay down lips on the keypad. She gives me a smile, free and frank. Fine sensibilities traverse all through her body. She gives a call now and again, and being busy, I ignore it. She's worried. More and more, she's worried. Her soft fingers trembling on the button now and again. years anxious in all anxiety. Lifelong promises we make, and I say, I love you from the bottom of my heart. While traveling by the ST bus or by auto rickshaw or by motorbike in a far off town or city, she always accompanies me and talks a lot about things unspoken. I, too, hear a lot of things unheard of. We always talk on the mobile. We talk only on the mobile because we are not face to face with each other. Thank you. With this, I proceed to the next poet. We have Job Degenaar from the Netherlands. Obviously, he's Dutch, and his poetry has been published in many magazines, anthologies, and newspapers. He writes prose, essays on literature, art, and culture, and he's a much published poet. He has more than a dozen collections of poems published in the Netherlands, Poland, and Germany. He's also an active translator. Job, we're very happy to have you with us today. Welcome. We need to unmute him.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, thank you. Namaste, dear colleagues. Good evening. Thanks for this invitation, Mrs. Saxena. I'm very honored to be with you. My first poem is Pandemische Dagen in Dutch. It's in English, Pandemic Days. Pandemische dagen. In die dagen waarin een virus ons verlamde, licht en duister versmolten tot een asgrauw landschap, zocht je wanhopig naar een uitweg. Kom iets maar, dacht je, uit een andere wereld. Een zuchtje wind in de plukjes gras. Een veer die nieuw streek uit het niets. Een zoete geur, een lief gebaar. Dat te denken was genoeg. In het dichte wolkendek ontstond een dunne, lichte vlek. Translation, please.
Okay. So this poem has been translated into Hindi by Rati Saxena, and it's called Mahamari Wale Din. उन दिनों जब एक वायरस ने हमें लकवाग्रस्त कर दिया, रोशनी और अंधेरे ने एक पितलाया दृश्य बना दिया, हम शिद्दत से बाहर निकलने का रास्ता खोजने लगे. जो कुछ भी तुमने सोचा वह दूसरी दुनिया से आएगा. हवा की उसांस, घास के फूलों में एक पंख जो न जाने किधर से आया, एक मीठी सुगंध, एक प्यारा सा संकेत. यदि तुमने कुछ सोचा भी होगा तो विचारने को इतना काफी है. गहरे सघन बादलों के बीच एक महीन रोशनी की लकीर. Job?
Second poem. What night does to a harbor. In Dutch, wat avond met een haven doet. Gewichtloos glinsterwater. De haven ligt te wiegen. Vissersboten liggen in blauw verankerd. Een man, roerloze reiger, zit in brons gegoten. In zijn hand een schepnet waaruit geolied daglicht lekt. Hij verroert, slaat toe. Een plons, maar niets dan zijn silhouet met net. En het fronsen van de rivier. Zo leeg is het nu geworden dat iemand sterren strooit en het intiem rumoer me wenkt dat uit verre bars bij vlagen haalt. Translation, please.
This poem has been translated into English by Willem Groenewegen. and it's called What Night Does to a Harbor. Weightless, glinting water, the harbor lights sway, fisher boats lie anchored in blue. A man, unstirring heron, sits cast in bronze, in his hand a dip net that leaks oiled daylight. He stirs, strikes hard, a splash, but nothing other than his silhouette and net and the river's wrinkles. So empty it has now become that someone sprinkles stars, and the intimate clamor calls to me that blows in gusts from bars afar. Job?
Ja. De kunst van het dichten. In English, the art of writing poetry. Ik geloof in het pluisje, waaraan je je vertilt als je het vangen wil. En dat je in een zucht wegblaast, zodra het je verveelt. Dat zoveel ruimte aan je laat, dat het er bijna niet is als het er is. Maar dat met fijne weerhaakjes toch de aarde zich bindt. Please.
This has been translated into Hindi by Rati Saxena and it's called Kavita Kala. डैंडेलायन पुष्प की पंखुड़ियां जो खिलते ही बिखरती हैं, पकड़ में आए बिना मैं उस पर विश्वास करता हूं. तुमने अनमयस्क होकर एक सांस भरी नहीं कि वह उड़कर फैल जाएगी. वे कण इतने पसरेंगे कि वहां नहीं होंगे जहां दरअसल वे हैं, लेकिन वे कोमल पंखुड़ियां ही अब भी धरती को बांधे हैं. Job?
Yeah. And the last poem, Riverbank in Grey, in Dutch, rivieroever in grijs. Misschien zijn meisjes uit Japan hier nodig. 3 in lila, roze, wit, onder een parasol van riet, op smalle voeten over het bleke zand. De wind stak op, het water ruiste en wolken buitelden door het blauw, of ze heel de aarde nog over moesten. En waar in de verte de rivier verdroomt, stroomde het goud van Boeddha over de uitgewoonde. Translation.
Thank you so much, Job. I think we're going to proceed to the next poet without the translation for this one because we're running out of time. So I now invite Azam Kadri. For a career, Azam develops feature films and web content. He writes for films and TV shows. He directs advertisements and music videos. And he writes a lot. He's written more than 100 stories and is passionate about theatre. Poetry, as Rati ji told us, is his newest love. Azam Kadri, welcome.
शुक्रिया दोस्तों, शुक्रिया रति मैम और साथी. बिल्कुल सही बात है कि पोइट्री लिखने का एक अलग जज्बा होता है. कभी कभी लिख लेता हूँ और रति जी ने यहाँ बुलाया है तो उसके लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. मैं अपनी कुछ कविताएं आपके सामने रखूंगा. तो मैं जो कविता आपको सुनाने जा रहा हूँ उसका टाइटल है कंक्रीट के जंगल. इस बार की बारिश बड़ी अजीब सी हुई है. इस बार की बारिश बड़ी अजीब सी हुई है. बारिश के बाद मिट्टी से अब सौंधी खुशबू नहीं आती. आती है तो बस एक अजीब सी गंध. मैंने पहचानने की बहुत कोशिश की, लेकिन सीमेंट में इंसानी खून और पसीना कुछ इस तरह मिल सा गया है कि पहचानना मुश्किल है. शहर के बाहर हरे भरे मैदानों की जगह अब कंक्रीट के जंगल उगाए हैं. शहर के बाहर हरे भरे मैदानों की जगह अब कंक्रीट के जंगल उगाए हैं. उस तरफ गांव से कुछ दिन पहले एक आंधी आई थी. हवा के थपेड़ों की जगह उसमें इंसानी चीखें शामिल थीं, जो कंक्रीट की ऊंची ऊंची दीवारों से टकराकर चूर चूर हो गईं. मगर उनकी सिसकियां मेरे कानों में आज तक गूंजती हैं। आप लोगों से एक गुजारिश है कि कभी कंक्रीट के उन जंगलों से गुजरना तो उन सिसकियों को सुनने की कोशिश जरूर करना। शायद वो आपसे कुछ कहना चाहती है। मेरी दूसरी पोएम है गुरुद्वारा। उस दिन तेरे एल्बम से तेरी एक तस्वीर चुरा लाया था। मेरा गुरुद्वारा मेरे साथ चला आया था। पर्स के एक कोने में छिपा लिया था तुमको। कुछ लेने देने के बहाने तुम चुपचाप से दिख जाती और मैं उतनी ही बार मुस्कुराता। मन्नत मांगता मन्नत मांगता और तुम शर्माती थी। फिर एक दिन तुम पर्स से निकलकर मेरे साथ साथ चलने लगी। मुझे भी लगा कि तुमने भी अपने पर्स में कोई मस्जिद बना ली होगी। मैं खुश था कि चलो मेरा कोई सजदा तो कबूल हुआ, लेकिन वो सजदा मेरा नहीं तुम्हारा था। न जाने कब तुमने अपनी फोटो मेरे पर्स से निकाल ली और बिना बताए किसी और की फोटो रख ली अपने पर्स में। मैं वहीं खड़ा रहा, हैरान सा, परेशान सा। तुम बहुत दूर निकल गई चुपचाप। कई बरस गुजर गए यूं ही वक्त का पीछा करके। मैं तुम्हें देखता रहा कोई पीर की दरगाह जैसे। आज भी देखकर पर्स के कोने को मुस्कुराता हूँ, मन्नत मांगता हूँ, यार अब जब कोई हीर ना हो तो रांझे भी ना पैदा करना। बस यही सांस, यही एहसास मेरे साथ रहता है। मेरा गुरुद्वारा आज भी मेरे साथ रहता है। द लास्ट पोएम पढ़ रहा हूँ, उसका शीर्षक है दंगे की औरत। दंगे की औरत। भिवंडी, मेरठ, मुरादाबाद, कानपुर, गोधरा। नहीं नहीं, गलत सुना आपने। मैं शहरों के नहीं, दंगों के नाम बोल रही हूँ। उस आग में झुलसी एक चीख बोल रही हूँ। कड़वी सच्चाई के पट खोल रही हूँ। भिवंडी, मेरठ, मुरादाबाद, कानपुर, गोधरा। नहीं नहीं, गलत सुना आपने। मैं शहरों के नहीं, दंगों के नाम बोल रही हूँ। उस आग में झुलसी एक चीख बोल रही हूँ। बच्चे की, जवान की, बूढ़े की, यहाँ तक कि माँ के गर्भ में पल रहे एक बच्चे की, सब तरह की लाशें हैं यहाँ। ए भाई साहब, क्या आप कुछ ऑर्डर करेंगे? सब कुछ है यहाँ। जली, अधजली, कटी, अधकटी, माँ, बाप, भाई, बहन, हिंदू या मुसलमान की। नहीं नहीं, सिर्फ एक इंसान की रूह बोल रही हूँ। उस आग में झुलसी एक चीख बोल रही हूँ। एक बार, दो बार, तीन बार, हाँ आपको पड़ेगा बार बार मरना। दंगों में गुनाह है आपका एक औरत होना। पहले हर तरह से आपके शरीर का इस्तेमाल होगा। जब वो ठंडे पड़ जाएंगे तो कोई और आ जाएगा और ये क्रम यूं ही चलता रहेगा। क्या आपको मैं सुनाई नहीं दे रही हूँ? या आप मुझे सुनना नहीं चाहते? उस आग में झुलसी एक चीख बोल रही हूँ। हाँ, कड़वी सच्चाई के पट खोल रही। थैंक यू।
बहुत खूब, बहुत खूब। Thank you, thank you, Azam. We now proceed to the next poet, and we have with us Hans Amadé Esperer. Amadé Esperer has studied linguistics, languages, philosophy, and human medicine. That's quite a combination. And has worked for many years in the USA at Harvard University and MIT in Cambridge at USA. Since 2013, he has lived in Germany and he's been a poet, essayist, translator, and editor. He's a profound expert on modern German, Anglo American Italian, and Hebrew poetry. He composes his poems in German, English, Italian, and Hebrew. He's received some very prestigious awards for his writing, and he has translated and staged Shakespearean plays and published numerous collections of poetry. Hans, welcome.
Festival. I'm going to read to you now 3 of my latest poems collected in a cycle so far not published. And the first one is entitled Fin Amour, Love is a Fine Art. Carissima, carissimo, the words whose pitfalls everyone should know, the tip of your tongue will hide. You do not want your tongue to cheat nor chide. That's why you stick its tip into the white holes of A's and O's. Thus your lover shall know that love is nothing if it ain't fine art, and art is a part of your heart. Quails and cranes. A light breeze is blowing from the Aegean Sea, but the fear should be mentioned that seizes them when they see the birds approaching like a blast of Scirocco, accompanied by zealous ornithologists invading the island, screeching like cranes. These are asymmetrical games, leaving the native quails stunned and like lames. Volatile net experts augur even more clandestines. Catchers and dealers hone their skills while the quails are losing their home. Bad Lady Bat. In all the capitals on Europe's shore, there sounds a song whose melody goes just like CCG, CCG, CCG. This song is sung by Marcobru the troubadour. Oh, Lady Bat, what did you do? What happened in your secret lab? Why did you fumble with that slab of flying voodoo voodoo? CCG, 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 CCG. Did you do some gain of function goofing? Why are you mocking us and spoofing? Your song sounds like a stutter, a screeching from behind a cage's shutter. CCG, CCG, CCG. From monitor to monitor, it's moving, just like an innocent cicada song. Now, tell us what went really wrong, 'cause sooner as you wish they will be proving who are the creditors, the debtors, and investors. CCG, CCG, CCG. Who brought us death 1,000,000 times and more? Thus sings to us on Europe's shore old Marcobru, the trusty troubadour. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans. I will now read 2 poems in translation, and these are not poems that Hans has just read out to us. They are 2 different poems. One is called Escaping the Opera, which in Hindi has been translated by Rati Saxena, and is called ओपरा से भागते। चलो हम याद रखें अंधेरे में साथ खड़े होना या फिर भागना। क्या हम संगीत लहरियों में डूबे थे या फिर उस नाटक में? तुम्हें मालूम होगा सब कुछ। ये छोटे छोटे दृश्य तुम्हें अनावृत करते हैं और मुझे कंकाल बना देते हैं। उन्हें हमेशा ही नग्नता पसंद है। चाहे अच्छी हो या बुरी, वे हर एक ओपरा में सच्चाई खोजते हैं। हम भूत प्रेतों के आने से पहले ही निकल पड़े थे, जब कुछ दर्शक बेहोश होकर गिर जाएं। मुंह से मुंह में ऑक्सीजन की चाहना में हम निकल चुके के आपस में ही चुंबन करते हुए, लेकिन हम अपनी धमनियों की सिहरनों को नहीं बता सके जो हमारे अदला बदली दिलों की एक कोशिका है. The next poem is called मुझे अचानक वहां मेरा ठिकाना मिला. एक बार मैं खिड़की पर कुछ ज्यादा ही टिका रहा. गर्मियों के दिनों में असमंजस में गोधूली में डूबते हुए मैंने अपनी निगाह उदास बादलों की तरफ घुमाई. वहां वे उदास बादलों को प्रज्वलित कर रहे थे. एक बार मैं खिड़की पर अधिक देर तक लेटा रहा. गर्मियों के बाहर अनिर्णीत गोधूली में तैरते हुए मैंने पहाड़ी के ऊपर से आंख उठाई. वहां उन्होंने उदास बादलों को प्रज्वलित किया था. एक चमकदार रोशनी बुझने लगी. रोजाना का सलेटी रंग मैंने जितनी गहराई से देखा उतनी बेहतर दिखी आकाश में चढ़ती हुई तुम्हारी तस्वीर. Thank you so much, Hans. I think these were beautiful poems. Thank you for bringing them to us.
Thank you very much.
And now we come to the last poet of this session. He's the youngest of us all, and I'm sure we're all very excited to hear him. We have Aditya Shankar, who was born and raised in India. His poetry, flash fiction, and translations are in journals and anthologies around the world. He has received multiple nominations for the Best of the Net and the Pushcart Prize. His most recent volume of poems, XXL, was shortlisted for the Yuva Puraskar by Sahitya-Akademi. After Seeing and Party Poopers are his other poetry collections. Aditya, come read your poetry to us.
Thank you, Kamayani. Also, thanks to Radhiji for continuing to believe in poetry and to host this festival, year after year, in spite of all the challenges that are coming our way. So I'll be reading a couple of poems today in Malayalam, followed by their English version, and another couple of poems only in English. I would like to begin with the poem, A Letter from Voice for... Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, I would like to begin with the poem A Letter from Voice for tribal rights activist Stan Swami, who succumbed to death, amidst restrained, muted, and silenced responses very recently. A Letter from Voice. Dear body, I'm leaving you to speak for someone else. I'm wasted in your silent throat that is scared even to be the song of the caged bird. You, the newborn, came to us with cries, protests, and demands. You're supposed to be the thrum of the engine that is noisier as it ages. But why did you fade into silence as naturally as a banana fades into its own brown? I have left a stammer in my place for you to buy groceries, repay EMIs, and get by. I have left a few yes, okay, sure, left, right, and so on for you to navigate, obey, and indulge in the riches. I have left a tongue for you to savor the flavors and a bunch of emojis for you to survive the social media natives. I shall leave like a star, intimate yet elusive, or a road searching for its next heave in the windpipe of the missing motor. In the syllable that translates a pit into a burrow, I shall seek my longing. I flee from you, dear body, that has grown crippled like a planet that will never meet its sun. Okay, the next poem that I'll be reading is in Malayalam. It's titled Kuttabodham, and I'll follow it up with the English version, which is titled Guilt. Kuttabodham. കൊലയ്ക്ക് ഉപയോഗിച്ച കല്ല് കല്ലായി തന്നെ തുടർന്നു. എവിടേക്കെറിഞ്ഞു അവിടെ തന്നെ കിടന്നു. മേത്തുപറ്റിയ ചോര കഴുകിക്കളയാതെ, ഭയമില്ലാത്ത കണ്ണുകൾ ഒളിപ്പിക്കാതെ ആ കല്ല് വെയിലും കാറ്റും ആസ്വദിച്ചു കിടന്നു. പർവ്വത ഗുഹയിലോ പാർട്ടി ഗുഹയിലോ ഒളിച്ചില്ല. നദിയെ പരാജയപ്പെടുത്തുന്ന അണക്കെട്ടായി ഉയർന്നില്ല. വീടിന്റെ ഇളകുന്ന തറക്കല്ലോ തിരയേറ്റുവിണ്ട കടൽ ഭിത്തിയോ ആവാൻ കൊതിച്ചില്ല. പ്രതിമയാവണോ അതോ ജയിൽമതിലാവണോ എന്ന ചോദ്യത്തിലെ സാധ്യതകളോടത് തുല്യ നിസ്സംഗത പാലിച്ചു. ഏതൊരു കല്ലും ചെയ്യും വിധം വഴിപോക്കർക്ക് ഇരിപ്പിടവും പാമ്പുകൾക്ക് അഭയവുമായി. ശാസ്ത്ര വിദ്യാർത്ഥിയെ സ്ഥിതികോർജവും ചരിത്ര വിദ്യാർത്ഥിയെ സമയത്തിന്റെ പഴമയും ഭൂതത്വ ശാസ്ത്രജ്ഞനെ ഭൂഗർഭ ചലനങ്ങളും അത് മുടങ്ങാതെ ഓർമ്മിപ്പിച്ചു. എങ്കിലും തന്റെ പുറത്തിരുന്ന് ചിന്തയിലേക്ക് വഴുതിയ ഓന്തിന്റെ മ്ലാന മൗനത്തോട് നിരന്തരം അത് തോറ്റു. കൂട്ടുകാർക്കിടയിൽ തോളുരുമ്മിയിരുന്ന് മണ്ണിടിച്ചിലാവാനോ കടൽപ്പാറയാവാനോ ആ കല്ല് തയ്യാറെടുത്തു. കൊലയ്ക്കുപയോഗിച്ച കല്ലിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള കവിത മറ്റേതൊരു കല്ലിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള കവിതയിൽ നിന്നും അത്ര വ്യത്യസ്തമൊന്നുമല്ല. Now for the English version of the same poem. It's titled Guilt. The rock that was used as a weapon continued to be a rock even after the murder. It lay where it was thrown, enjoying the wind and sand on its skin, precisely as it did in the previous moment. It did not rush to cleanse the bloodstains on it or to hide its eyes. There was no fear in them. It did not banish itself into the solitude of a faraway dark cave or punish itself with the nightmares of being a dam that defeats the river. The rock did not bury itself in the foundation of an unhappy home or condemn itself into a whip-scarred seawall. Neither did it fancy, nor was it averse to being built as a monument or as an unassailable prison wall, the spectrum of human glory. As has been, the rock offered a stool to the passerby and turned into a shelter for the snake and the scorpion. As is expected out of a rock, it continued to remind the science student about potential energy, the geologist about tectonic movements, and the historian about the antiquity of time. It continued to fail to remind the chameleon that paused over it anything specific. The rock rubbed shoulders with fellow rocks and readied itself to roll in a landslide or to be washed away in the seabed as needed. A poem about a rock used for murder or about any other rock will almost be the same. Now for the next poem that I plan to read here, it's titled Head. This was written in 2002, but I think it may be worthy of a reread in our current political climate. The Head. A head rolls along your street. Near every beheaded and downcast torso that mourns its lost upper story, it halts. Brimming with ideas, a head too heavy for most, a head louder by its stinging past, scarier by its opinion, unflinching its commitment to dream, love, and come clean. It refuses to sing for the monarch and takes on all his mouthpieces. A head rolls, will it ever find a worthy torso? Okay. Next, I'll be reading a Malayalam poem titled Autumn, followed by its English version titled The Run. Autumn. കള്ളന് പിറകെ ഓടുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു എലി, മുയൽ, പട്ടി മുതലായവയുടെ തോറ്റ വേട്ടക്കാർ, മാവോ പ്രണയ സദാചാരാദികളുടെ തോറ്റ വേട്ടക്കാർ. യേശുവിനെ കല്ലെറിഞ്ഞും ഗാന്ധിയെ തള്ളിപ്പറഞ്ഞും ഫ്ലോയിഡിനെ ഞെരിച്ചും തോറ്റുപോയവർ കള്ളന് പിറകെ ഓടുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. തോറ്റ പകപൂണ്ട ആത്മാക്കളും മനുഷ്യരാശിയുടെ നല്ലൊരു പങ്കും കള്ളന് പിറകെ ഓടുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഓടി തോൽപ്പിക്കാനുള്ള കള്ളന്റെ കഴിവിനെ സംശയിച്ചോ അവന്റെ പ്രവൃത്തിയെ അനുകൂലിച്ചോ അല്ല ഓട് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞത്. താരതമ്യേന ഉയർന്ന ധാർമ്മിക നില പുലർത്തുന്നവന്റെ വിജയത്തിന് എന്റെ കൊച്ചു പ്രാർത്ഥന ഉപകാരപ്പെടട്ടെന്ന് മാത്രമേ വിചാരിച്ചുള്ളൂ. The English version of the poem titled The Run. The failed chasers of hares, rodents, and hungry dogs, the failed chasers of pickpockets and Mao, the failed stalkers of bright plumage and kind love were pursuing the thief. The failed crucifiers of Christ, the failed haters of Gandhi, the failed stranglers of Floyd were pursuing the thief. The vengeful souls of losers, the vast majority of humanity, were hot on his heels. Run, I rooted for the thief, not to vouch for his character or to doubt his ability to routen. I just hoped that my little prayer could be of help to the one on a slightly higher moral ground.
Wonderful, Aditya. Thank you so much.
Thank
Had
you.
you not read these poems and somebody else read them for you, I would still know they're from a young poet. Thank you. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you all. And I now invite Ratiji to wind up the session for us. Ratiji, we can't hear you.
Friends, I'm very sorry from the trouble came from my side. It was not my mistake. That 1 hour completely, the internet was extremely down in my city. And I was running with this mobile, very small mobile, very ordinary mobile. But we are poets. We know that we know the power of words. And these words I put here today. I was really wondering to see that how beautiful, though I was struggling backside with my system, with my mobile, with my other problems. I was talking to technicians and all, but my other ear was with your poetry. My name was asking me to go and backside and then take rest, but she does not know what rest I take at the back because the curtain pullers are on the backside and they are the controller of theater. So the whole theater is run by curtain puller and I am curtain puller. So it was terrific time, but at the same time I had a different. I had 2 ears and then one ear was trouble listening the troubles and other ear was listening such a beautiful poetry. Such a calm and such a beautiful poetry this session. I'm very sorry that I could not present you in a better way. But I know that I know more, all of you, but the way you presented today so calmly, so nicely, it was fantastic. I know that Aurelia, if I were in a right position, I would have asked her to sing in between as if she always does. She sings in between her lines and which is very beautiful. And I missed that. And I could not come and ask you that please, Aurelia, sing. Before going, at least you sing 2 lines, Aurelia, please.
I regret.
Hmm? Can you
Why
sing?
don't you sing now?
Oh, no. Okay. Perfect. With my little phone microphone, okay?
Yes, right.
Kun ulilye lano bioka shelaganya tapshumbyen tapshumbyen Lamu atau hendas video tahun.
Thank you, Aurelia. It was so
Thank you,
fantastic.
Rati.
Thank you. I remember the days you were singing day and night in 2013 in Varda.
I remember.
Never used to stop singing. Thank you, Aurelia. And
Thank you.
your poetry actually fantastic. Thank you very much for your beautiful language and beautiful poetry. Your Kadri, your poetry, I know that it's very strong, very sharp, like your novels and your slang. You're very nice, nicely presented the situations which we face here. Prithiraj Taur is very calm and quiet and all the time and very and his poetry is also very deep. And yes, you are a feminist. I know that.
Thank you.
That goes for
Thank you so much.
Shukriya kwa.
Yeah. And Amadé, your poetry, I always appreciate, as you know that. And
Aditya, you are always fantastic. I always follow you in your writing, your poetry, your Facebook, and also you're fantastic. So this was a fantastic session, except the technical problem from my side. And Kamayani, you have done wonderful. You have presented so nicely. So I thank you all, and sorry for the inconvenience you faced in between, and my wrong buttons with my, because you have to learn first. You have to learn the keyboard, and now you have to learn the touch of your finger. I'm old, so all these things take time to learn that which finger where to touch. So thank you very much, all of you. A great session with great problem. First time this problem. So thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.